right, welcome. Last week I posted a video on intent and movement patterns and consistently exploring and working through a general, what does it look like for me to recalibrate, reevaluate my intent as I continue forward. Got me to thinking it would be really cool to show one workout and what intent looks like through that. Right? So that's what I ended up doing here. As you can see to the right, I have intent listed. I have some new insights upon completion, actually upon a conversation I had with a colleague. And then this was the workout. I did this yesterday. All right, so the intent here was the exploration of initial, mid, and end range of motion through similar but various motion patterns. Those being the squat, an overhead toss, and then a step up. So two were the bilateral aspect, my feet were grounded, and then one was stepping up with the single leg. I also wanted to work my thoracic spine threshold. That's something that I've been working quite consistently now for probably close to 8 months when I originally found out about it. And that was through a back squat, transverse plane lunge, and the external load at my lateral hip. So the side of my hip or my thigh, and where it's almost kind of pulling you sideways, right? So it's pulling me sideways and I have to try and right myself. So that was the thoracic spine threshold challenge there. Well, that was the lateral aspect. I also worked at a couple other pieces there. So having said that, there was the general right there. That's what came up in the post last week, the submax load. So that was a big part of this. That's why you notice that the 16 reps, that's where the submax load comes in for me. A little bit lighter weight and going a lot more reps. And it's quite incredible to experience what the tissue goes through. You hit that, let's say you hit that 10 to 12 rep mark, right? And that's maybe where you usually stop, but then you take it an extra few reps and depending on what you're doing. So for example, this transverse plane lunge, I've been looking for a slight dip in the left side of my pelvis when I try and access my adductors, and it has not been very cooperative. But I've continued to work at it, stretch, foam roll, all those things, and now it's starting to happen. And as I get to about, I would say 12 or 13 here on this exercise specifically, I can start to feel those new tissues kind of responding and kicking in. And that you have to be super kind of aware of what's going on. And that's where I really sit and really focus, is that body awareness. And I love that feeling. Anyway, so new insights upon completion, muscle fiber recruitment, power potential. This was a conversation I had with a colleague. I sent him this workout and I asked, hey, could we kind of talk about this as well as the initial, the mid, and the end range of motion? What are your thoughts on that? So we kind of discussed these pieces here. These were new things to me, so I'm going to continue to dive into that. However, this was the workout. Barbell posterior shoulder end range of motion squat, so a back squat. Went 16 reps, much lighter weight than I usually go. And I just worked on the AC/DC, the dropping into that end range of motion. What did the hips feel like during that process? I was getting quite a bit of right knee clicking, so I varied my foot position, the SFT foot positions, as well as even pushing through the inside of my right foot a little bit more. There was more emphasis in that, and that eliminated that clicking. So just getting a better chain, in my mind, getting a better chain reaction, as well as some of the tissue kicking in a certain way. Second one, you had the common transverse plane lunge, opposite hand dumbbell knee reach, and coming back to anatomically neutral for a curl. All right, so this is the one I was just saying. As you open up, think of yourself on a clock face. You're staring at 12 and you open up to about that 3 to 5 p.m. mark, or I should just say 3 to 5. And going through that, the opposite hand is coming through. So it almost wants to drag your spine across and through, and your spine and your hips have to work on that deceleration. And that's where, in doing that, your adductors are lengthening. Then they have to pull you back into position. And it's really neat to start feeling those tissues light up and pull you back. Third one, seated, single arm, same side hip drive. So I just took a seated position here, worked some of the hip motion again. And this was also kind of neat because you could get a nice lengthening through the rib cage, that lateral aspect of the rib cage. Jam ball overhead toss. Picking up the ball, I tried to simulate more of that deadlift where it was that long lengthening of the hamstrings, expansion of the glutes, so that it's almost that rubber band effect, lengthen, 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 and then it wants to pop my pelvis or the hips back to neutral, coming through flexion, and or I should say flexion into extension, and that's what's kind of tossing that ball up there for me. So work that, and then last but not least, kettlebell same side hip, like I said, so the load is on my right side, so it's almost pulling me right, and then the load is on my left side, it's almost pulling me left, and that most stability of the spine, of the thoracic spine, and that is what intent looks like for me in a workout. So I would love to dive deeper. If you have any questions, this has now been almost over a year in the making now with the colleagues and the coworkers that I have. They've done wondrous things for me in terms of being able to create this. And again, like I was reaching out to one today about, hey, taking programming one step further. You know, what does it look like to do X, Y, Z? So this is a never-ending process. And yes, I am a movement practitioner. Yes, this is what I do. But even if you are doing a personal practice, right, you're just someone who likes to work out, you get in your workouts, what does your intent look like? Where do you go with it? What do you think about? What do you want to achieve? Is it strictly like today's the bis and tris, tomorrow is going to be the back? You know, how does it look for you? And can you start to fine tune that a little bit more? Can you start to bring pieces together? So that's always a neat little challenge there. Let me know what you think. Hope to hear back from you. Peace.